Hello and welcome back to our returning weekly Oxygen XML live experience. My name is Alim Belu and as usual, I will be your host for today's live event, Automate XML Processing with Oxygen XML Scripting webinar. To introduce you to Oxygen XML Scripting, a bundle of command line tools that can be executed inside continuous integration and deployment pipelines, my colleague Alex Gitiano, development lead at Synchrosoft, the company that produces the Oxygen suite of products, will join me in just a few moments. But before giving the floor to Alex, allow me to give you some useful information about today's webinar. You need to know that all of our events are being recorded and so is this one. After the event comes to an end, the recording will be made available on the event page on our site, oxygenxml.com, along with the slides and samples of Alex's presentation, and also the recording will be uploaded on our YouTube channel titled Oxygen XML. Another important aspect is that as we go along, we encourage you to ask us questions by using the questions panel from the GoToWebinar interface. Radu Koravu, one of the most experienced project managers at Synchrosoft, will help us to answer your questions in real time. With this being said, now I am ready to give the floor to Alex Gitiano. Hello, Alex.
Hello, Aline. Thank you for your kind introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for attending this webinar. As you know, XML, because of its structure, it's a great fit for automations. So in the following presentation, we'll see how Oxygen can help you in automating your XML processing. Short presentation of today's agenda. First, we'll see exactly what Oxygen XML Scripting is, what it stands for. We'll take a look at the available toolbox. And last but not least, we'll identify some use cases in which the Oxygen XML Scripting toolbox is useful. So Oxygen XML Scripting is a new licensing model that offers you access to a new set of command line tools. These command line tools all represent functionality that was previously available inside Oxygen's graphical user interface. But what's important is that by creating this command line tools interface, you can now execute these functionalities from continuous integration, continuous delivery pipelines. So you can find more information about Oxygen XML Scripting license on our website, of course. So I've talked about continuous integration. Just a few words about the concept for those of you that are not yet familiar with it. Continuous integration is a technique in which developers' changes are validated by creating a build and running automated tests against that build as soon as they are committed. And it puts a great emphasis on automation, on testing automation to check that the application is not broken whenever new commits are integrated into the main branch. So you avoid that integration hell when all the developers commit changes and you don't know exactly which one broke the build, and maybe you have to deliver in a couple of days. Continuous delivery takes a step forward. By that you've also automated your release processes, and you can deploy your application at any point of time by clicking a button. So the Oxygen XML Scripting toolbox. There are quite a few tools here, and Again, they're all described on our website, and I will also go through each one of these in particular and describe exactly what benefit it brings. But first of all, before that, you should know where these tools are, so how to access them. What you need to do is download an Oxygen All Platforms distribution. Again, on our website in the downloads area, if you click this other tab, this is the All Platforms distribution. And once you have it, the scripts are all present in the scripts folder. And of course, don't forget the Oxygen XML scripting license that I've mentioned. It has to be put in a file inside the Oxygen installation directory. So the first tool is the DITA validate and check for completeness. Is addressed to those of you that use DITA for writing technical documentation. And what it does is it makes sure your maps and topics are valid. For example, all the relationship between them are working. There are no unreferenced reusables or keys. There are no profiling conflicts, maybe no broken links. So all sorts of checks that are usually not caught by classic schema validation. This validation can start from a DITA map or something we had in the last release, from a DITA Open Toolkit project file. Again, you can go on our website to read more about what this file actually is. But it basically, in this project file, you define pairs of DITA maps and DITA val files. So these pairs represent deliverables, right? And this command line tool can also start the validation from such project file. I have one right here. So you see, you have these context elements, and each one is a pair between a DITA map and a DITA val file. So by validating your project file, you make sure that all of your deliverables are valid and consistent. So let's, oopsie. Sorry about that. Okay, let's copy this command line, and inside Oxygen, I'll use the show in terminal action to go in the proper place. So validate check DITA is the name of the script. Then we give the project file as input and also a settings file. This settings file, you can obtain one from Oxygen in the DITA Maps Manager. If you open your map and then click on the toolbar on the validate and check for completeness action, you get the DITA Map completeness check dialog. You might have used this before, and after you select which checks you want to be performed on your map, you just export settings and you'll get that XML file that you can afterwards pass as an argument to the script. But I've already generated this settings file, so now all I have to do is just execute it. Yeah, because I forgot to specify a report output, it will just put everything here in the in the console, but let's give it report.xml and tell it to write the report inside this XML file so we can better look at it inside Oxygen. So validation successful, but we have 12 warnings. So it was report. Let's pretty printed. So we have quite a few issues here, but let's have a look at one of them. So for example, here it says it's a profiling conflict. One of my topic refs are profiled for an X1000 product, but the parent topic ref is profiled only for X2000 product. So what it means is when I publish the user guide for my X1000 model, there will be content missing from that user guide. And another issue found here is a broken link because this insert battery image is not found. And the thing is that because the report is given in an XML format, you can then process it with XSLT as you desire and maybe publish it as an HTML report, or as we will see later on, maybe push it to a platform that knows how to present and manage issues. The next script, also for DITA users, is called the DITA Translation Package Builder. It builds a translation package that can be sent to translators, and it also can extract the changed files back into your project once you receive the package back from translators. I need to mention that it requires the DITA Translation Package Builder add-on to be installed. This add-on, you usually installed it in Oxygen by going to Help, Install New Add-on, connect to all the available update sites, and the Translation Package Builder is one of these here. So you follow the installation procedure and you have it. But in this particular context, when we have scripts, you need a different type of installation for this translation package builder add-on. So what you need to do is go on the add-ons GitHub page on the releases, and then and here you'll be able to get the package and just unzip it inside the plugins directory of the all platforms Oxygen distribution. Before showing some examples, so how this translation package builder works is that at the first step, when your English map and your French map are all synchronized, you use the script to generate a milestone using this generate milestone flag. And this milestone flag will have all these hash codes for each of the topics referred in the map. And then you just begin and edit your topics and make changes. And in this diagram, I've changed topic 1 and topic 2. And the third step is when you want to send the changed file to translation, you generate the package, again using the translation package builder script, by passing it the generate package flag, and you'll get an archive with just the modified topics. The next step is when you receive the package back from translation with, for example, maybe the French version of the topics. you will merge them into your French DITA map. Again, using the script, the translation package builder script, and the apply package flag, right? So let's copy this command line back to Oxygen. So here I have an English version of my map. I've previously generated this milestone that I've told you about. So let's open a terminal and we'll run this command line. And when it finishes, we see this archive, the package. If we look inside it, we'll notice just two topics, the ones that have been detected as having modifications since the last milestone. So now we send it to translation, and when it comes back, like I said, we can apply it using this command line. But to better understand what's happening, I will do it from within Oxygen. So I'll open the French map, and from the translation package builder, apply package, select the package that I received from translation. And this preview is what I wanted to show you. So now you see this, the first topic, there's a new paragraph coming. This is what was changed in the iris topic and now was translated into French. And inside this second topic, there's also a new paragraph here. So when I run the script with the apply package argument, it will apply these newly received topics. The next script on our list, transform, is called transform, and what it does, it executes an Oxygen transformation scenario from the command line. Transformation scenario in Oxygen it's a concept that represents a configuration a configuration through which you transform your source documents into something else, for example, into web responsive or into PDF. And this configuration usually take a lot of parameters and options. So the idea here was, why would this transform script would be useful, is because if you already have this configuration created inside Oxygen, why would you have to duplicate it for the command line and keep these two versions into sync? It's cumbersome. So that would be one reason to use the transform script to just apply an already configured Oxygen transformation scenario. The other reason is that Oxygen also has a number of patches built in, for example, and you benefit from these patches when you transform from within Oxygen. For example, for DITA, if you have references to topics outside the DITA map's root directory, the Open Toolkit will not be able to publish that DITA map. And Oxygen has this feature which is called Fix External References. And through it, you are able to publish such DITA maps from within Oxygen. And now you have access to this feature from the command line as well through this transform script. You'll notice here that one of its arguments is So the first one is the name of the scenario, obviously, and this other one is a scenarios file. So how you obtain these scenarios files? Well, the easiest way is to go to options and export global transformation scenarios. You can also export scenarios from this configure transformation scenario dialog. From the contextual menu, you have this export selected scenarios. And also, if your scenarios are saved into an Oxygen project file, then you can just pass that project file as an argument here. The next script on our list is called a batch converter. As its name suggests, it converts between many formats. You have the list here. Again, this functionality was available in Oxygen through an add-on, the batch converter add-on, which was installed similarly, just like I've shown you with the translation package builder add-on. In order to use the script, you need to have the batch converter add-on. So again, you'll get it from its GitHub repository in the releases section. Just grab it, grab the archive, and unzip it inside the plugins directory. So let's copy this command line. Go to Oxygen. Let's see where I have some samples here. So I have a cherry blossom Word document, and let's convert it to DITA, for example. So the first argument, the input, our Word document. Afterwards, we specify the input format as being Word and the output format as being DITA, because we want to convert it to DITA. Refresh, here is the DITA. And yeah, if we look in the text page, we see that it's a DITA markup, which was generated from that Word document. Next section is about some tools intended for generating documentation. Documentation from XSLT style sheets, or from XML schemas, or WSDL, Web Service Definition Language documents. Again, this functionality was available in the graphical user interface in Oxygen, but now if your projects also have this type of deliverables like style sheets or XML schemas, you can integrate these features into your pipelines. So this is documentation for style sheets. It has a table of contents on the left presenting templates, parameters, and functions. And as you select these components, you'll see information about it, like maybe the places where it is used by, and what parameters it has, documentation, and so on. Something similar for XML schemas. You also have a nice diagram to help you understand the model of each component. And for WSDL as well. Let's generate a style sheet documentation ourselves to see how that looks like. So I have some style sheets here. So let's open a terminal, paste. Again, the first argument is the main style sheet, the entry point, and then the format that we want. We want to obtain the documentation in HTML and the name of the output file, and then we'll tell it to generate, to split the HTMLs based on each style sheet if we have multiple modules. So let's see what we've got. Right, so like I've told you on the left, there's also grouping criteria by location, by component type, and on the right, information about each template or function, what the places it is used from, what other components are used inside it. You see here, it uses the get div ID function. We can go into the function and read about it and so on and so forth. Three other scripts that we haven't yet mentioned. I'll go bottom up. The Flatten XML Schema. Sometimes you want to aggregate all the XML schemas referenced inside the main XML schemas, all these modules, and create a single giant XML schema that you can then deliver. And this is what this script does. The XML instance generator is able to generate many XML instances based on a given XML schema. It's useful, for example, if you want to have a lot of instances for running tests. And this compile framework script, it's something new introduced in the last version of Oxygen. Before presenting it, I also want to make sure I tell you what the framework concept is in Oxygen. So framework is a bundle of resources together with a configuration. These resources can be CSS files used in the visual editing or XML scheme or schemas used for validation and schema-driven editing, together with a configuration like wizard-defined actions for the author mode or these transformation scenarios that we've mentioned earlier. And all this bundle represents the special support that Oxygen offers for a particular type of documents. We have a framework for DITA, we have a framework for dogbook, for TI, and so on. And up until now, the way you went to create such framework was to go to use the graphical user interface, go to Options, Preferences on the document type association. And if you wanted to create a new one, then you just click New. The challenge with this approach when developing a new framework is that you have to go back and forth between this graphical user interface for creating the framework and the actual document to test to test the framework, to see that it's how you desire it to be. So that was one challenge. The second challenge comes when you want to make a change to an existing framework. For example, the built-in DITA framework. In this case, you could either duplicate the framework and make the changes, but what you had to have in mind here, a possible challenge was that when you upgraded to a new Oxygen version, and this Oxygen version comes with a new build and upgraded and improved DITA framework, you would have to manually integrate the newly introduced changes in the built-in framework into your copy. A better approach would have been to extend the built-in framework instead of duplicating it, because extend creates a layer of modification, so it just records your changes and applies them on the built-in framework. So when you upgrade to a new Oxygen version, this extension is applied automatically by Oxygen. You don't have to do anything. The catch with the extend, though, is that it only works one level. So you cannot extend a framework that extended another framework. And to address these challenges, we added the possibility to define a framework in a human readable XML language. To do that, you go to New, and you have this new template. Create framework script if you want to create a new framework from scratch, or extend if you want to extend an existing framework. But I will show you an example that already has quite a few rules in it, because it will help you better understand. So this is the script, and here, using this base attribute, we say that this newly created script is an extension of the DITA framework. Then we give a name for our new framework, a description. The priority is important when multiple frameworks apply on the same documents. Oxygen will use this priority to decide which one to use. Next, this association rules container is where you define the association rules, because this is a framework for lightweight DITA topics. We use rules based on the public ID. So if the public ID is this, then it's a lightweight DITA document, and this framework should be used. Then some resources to be added in our class path, document templates to be presented when the user invokes the new action, the validation scenarios. It loads this scenarios file that we've talked about how to obtain them, from this export to scenarios actions. Then for the author mode, we remove some actions that were defined in the base DITA framework from all the places they were added. Like, for example, they will be removed from toolbars and from menus. We add some additional CSSs to change the way the document is rendered in the visual mode, in the author mode. And then we put some other actions in the toolbar. So a lot of everything that you've been able to do so far using the graphical user interface, you'll be able to do it in this configuration script. And afterwards, to test it and to load it, you need to use this compile framework extension script action. And what this action will do is it will generate the .framework file, the configuration that Oxygen knows how to load and what to do with it. And now to return to this compile framework script, this is the version of this compile framework extension script action, but from the command line. So in this case, in the terminal, this is the name of the script, and as input we give the current directory, and the script will search for this framework extension scripts, and you see it will generate the corresponding framework file. So if we refresh, we will see now the .framework file here. Right, so now that we've seen each of these scripts and the benefits they bring, let's bring them together in a continuous integration environment. For this, we'll be using GitHub for storage. So on GitHub, I have a repository containing various XML resources. We'll use Netlify as a continuous integration server and for hosting as well. And Sonar Cloud. Sonar Cloud is a platform for static analysis of your source, but here in this example, we'll only use it as a platform to deploy our validation results. You'll see why. It's basically we'll convert what the XML produced by the validate and check for completeness script into something that Sonar knows how to present in their platform. I had to choose a few of the scripts because we don't have enough time to see all of them into action. So I've chosen the DITA validation and check for completeness to make sure my map is valid. Also, I'll use the DITA translation package builder to build a package for translation. XSLT documentation, maybe let's assume my project also produces some XSLTs. And as a bonus, we'll also, because we also want to touch on the continuous delivery part, we'll also publish our documents to Web Help Responsive via the DITA Oxygen publishing engine, the Oxygen DITA publishing engine. Again, something newly introduced. The publishing engine contains a DITA Open Toolkit distribution with Web Help and Web Help Responsive and PDF chemistry plugins already integrated, so you can use them right away without any other setup. Yes, and of course I have some DITA documents in my repository because of these two DITA related scripts. Let's see it in action. So like I said, Netlify watches over my GitHub repository, and whenever new commits are detected, it will run all these scripts that I've mentioned. And you see here in the production deploys, and we can, because it also has hosting, we can click here and see what our build produces. So we have the translation package. If we click here, it will download an archive containing the modified DITA documents that should be sent to translation. Here in the XSLT documentation area, if we click it, it will open HTML documentation for my style sheets. It's quite a simple style sheet, but I've shown you earlier a more complex example. And here we have the Web Help Responsive. We click it, and we see the Web Help Responsive published output from my DITA content. To see how I've also integrated these edit online links. So if I click them, it will use Oxygen XML web author to edit the actual DITA source that was behind that HTML page, the DITA source from the GitHub repository. And if we maybe insert a new paragraph and make a change, and then we commit, commit successful. And when we return here in Netlify, you'll see that it detected this new change and it started a new build. And when it finishes, we'll be able to see the updated results. Until this build finishes, we can look a bit behind the hood and see how I configure Netlify to run all these scripts. So if we look in the GitHub repository, the entry point is this netlify.toml file. So Netlify will look for this configuration file, and in it, we'll tell it to run these scripts here, all these scripts, and afterwards, we'll tell Netlify that the published output is in this folder. So Netlify will copy it into his hosting platform. So let's have a look at the scripts. The first one, the setup, you see here it downloads the old platform distribution of Oxygen, the one that contains all the scripts. It also downloads the DITA translation package builder from its GitHub repository and unzips it in the plugins folder of Oxygen. Afterwards, the validate and check for completeness script, it uses the validate check DITA script, and it passes as input our DITA map, a file containing some settings, and we save the results here in this result file. And like I've told you, we will convert this XML results file into something that Sonar knows how to load. So in this JSON file. And now I realize that I forgot to show you Sonar part, the Sonar part. So if we go to Sonar, we have a project here, Oxygen XML Scripting, and we have all the things that failed in our project. And for example, here we have some things reported by, some errors reported by the DITA validate and check for completeness. So here we have a key reference that it's not used anywhere, so maybe it's a good practice to remove it. And here we have a profiling conflict. You notice that the parent topic ref, it's profiled for the audience expert, and this child for audience novice. So when you generate the user guide for the audience, for the novice audience, this topic will actually be missing. And also it picked up a broken reference here. But so I've used Sonar for presenting these validation errors, but you are free to use any other platform or tool, or maybe you just want to present them in an HTML page. and maybe send some emails to people to let them know that these errors have appeared. So this was the validate and check for completeness. The sonar part, here we download the command line interface of sonar, and when we run it here, we pass this sonar properties file. And if we look in it, what's important here is here we specified the name of the project or organization. This is a login token generated on the Sonar Cloud site. And here we also important, we pass some external issues report file. So you see here, this is the JSON file that we've obtained from the output of the validate and check for completeness script. And this way Sonar will load it into its platform. And on the publishing side, we download the Oxygen DITA publishing engine here. For the edit links, the links that enabled you to edit the source document into Oxygen Web's author, we download an additional DITA Open Toolkit plugin from its GitHub repository, and we run the integrator to integrate this additional plugin. And afterwards, we just run the Open Toolkit. We request the Web Help responsive, give the input, and the output you see here, we tell it to generate in that folder that Netlify knows to load into its hosting. And one last script, this one, it's where we invoke the translation package builder script to generate the package for translation, and also the style sheet documentation script. Thank you for bearing with me for so long. I hope you've found some interesting ideas on how to automate things in your XML projects, and maybe how to use this Oxygen XML scripting in your pipelines. Aline?
Well, thank you, Alex, and a big thank you to all of the kind audience members that attended our event. Alex, I have to tell you that our audience members were a little bit more shy with their questions today, but
Well,
even
I think
so,
I'm not upset. I mean, it means I was very clear in my
you
explanation.
explained, yes, you explained very well.
I'll take it as
Even
a
so,
compliment.
even so, we have a good question. For the transformation scenario command line, do you also have access to licensed software that is bundled with Oxygen, such as Saxon Enterprise Edition?
Hi everyone. So as I told Peter, the transformation scenarios, when they are run from the command line, they only have access to Saxon Home Edition. So if you want to run from the command line builds with the Saxon Enterprise Edition, you need to buy a special license from the Saxonica website and add it to the Oxygen installation folder.
Okay, thank you, Radu.
Thank you, Radu. Okay, let me take back the control, as we have no other questions up until now. Okay, let me remind you that the event is being recorded, and you will find the recording along with Alex's sample files and slides on the event page. And if you have any comments or questions regarding the presentation, you can write to us directly by using the Oxygen feedback commenting platform found at the bottom of the same page. That is very, very easy to use. But I also want to inform you that next week I will be hosting a very, very special event. As you all know, version 23 of the Oxygen XML suite of products was recently released. So to introduce you to the newly implemented and game-changing features of Oxygen 23, we invite you next Wednesday on December 9th to join us for an overview and a panel discussion that will allow you to engage with the amazing people that envisioned and developed our latest release. You can find out firsthand how you can benefit from new features like concurrent editing in WebAuthor for unrestricted collaboration, the possibility to define or customize how Oxygen supports an XML language using a framework script, and about the many updates to the JSON schema support, and so much more. But with this being said, make sure to check our events page where you can also find the link to register for free. Reaching the end of our event, thank you again, Alex, for introducing us to Oxygen XML Scripting.
Thank you all for following, and we wait for you to give it a try and let us know on our support email address.
Also, thank you, Radu, for helping us with the audience's question. And of course, a big thank you to everyone for taking part in today's live event. I wish you all a wonderful day or evening. And I hope we hear each other again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.